Okay, so next question we have here is from BNK975. The question is how to prevent/train your unleashed dog, parentheses, trained to walk without a leash, from bolting when he sees other dogs, parentheses, well-behaved or not. Okay, so big thing with this question. If your dog is bolting when he sees other dogs while he is off of the leash, your dog is not trained to walk without a leash, right? As a big key with this, because the problem is, I talk about this a lot. The problem is that I've never met a dog that doesn't know how to do commands some of the time, right? That doesn't mean that the dog is trained though. Training implies that those commands, or I should specify, trained implies that the dog is fluent in those commands around all distractions. So your dog may have an understanding of how to stay with you most of the time, or some dogs may have an understanding of how to sit or down most of the time, but 90% of the reason why we get contacted for training is because the dogs will not do those things when distractions are present. So I'm glad your dog has a good understanding of those things, but what we need to do is we need to figure out a way to proof and finish that training, right? So, and that starts with the ability to tell the dog yes and no in a way that they understand. That's what I say is kind of the foundation of our training program that we do. Is we want to teach the dog yes and no very clearly, because once you have that established, you could take anything that you've taught your dog and you could proof it anywhere as long as the yes or the no is motivating enough to the dog. Now, I will say that most dogs, it is never an issue of our yes is not clear enough, right? It's very easy to tell the dog when they're doing a good job. It's very easy to give the dog treats and reward them and this and that, but positive reinforcement or rewarding behaviors, all that does is increase things, right? So if you want to increase your dog's understanding of sit, down, come, whatever it may be, those things would be great for that. But when it comes to a distraction and getting the dog to not do something, which is what you're ultimately asking, not bolting when he sees other dogs, then we need to have our no really clearly established. Now, the problem is that when your dog is off of the leash, there's only really one way in order to prove that, and that's with a remote collar. And that's why we do remote collar training with all of the dogs, is because it gives us the ability from a half mile away at the most, that's the range on the e-collars that we use, to still communicate effectively boundaries and consequences to the dogs. So the way that I teach the e-collar is essentially like the invisible leash. So I want to teach this dog first and foremost that when it feels the remote collar, that it means to come back to me. And you could do that with a combination of food, the leash, the e-collar, any of the above mixed together, but ultimately we need to know that stimulation means come to me. Stimulation means come to me. Stimulation means come to me. And we teach that at a low working level where we get the dog just making that connection that this means this, this means this, this means this. And then what we do is once we have that established really clearly, then we'll implement it into real world use like this. So I would start then using my e-collar at a higher level, and that means a level where my no is more motivating than chasing the other dog is, right? And I would go into that setting or into that environment, and the second my dog did that, I would apply my consequence for doing that in that situation. And that's how we would tighten all of this stuff up and get it to a place where you don't have to worry about the distractions, the people, the dogs, etc., right? It really is as simple as that, right? Your dog may have a baseline understanding of this, but unfortunately it is not yet, a little bug flying around here, it is not yet at a place where that training is proofed and ready to be using for that stuff, right? So first and foremost is just e-collar training, getting the dog implemented and teach the general recall or teach some leash walking or something with it. Then we come into proofing and using a little bit higher of a level to make sure the dog is motivated enough to not do those things in addition to doing those things. So hope that question helps. If you have questions, let us know.